Okay. Wow, I can see that a few more people have joined. My name is Lilia Kirilenka. I'm going to tell you about APM today. And sorry for my camera, my kid got sick and he fell asleep in the office. So I'm working from a different room and just with my laptop without a camera. Well, we'll have to deal with that somehow. Okay, and before we start, let's talk about the plan. So, the first thing that I would like to talk to you about is when to choose APM. So, we would talk about what APM is, should you choose it, no, and so on. Then we will need to talk about the logic of APM, and that is pivotal for you to understand how to attempt the questions and actually answer the right exam. We are going to talk about the problems and we're going to talk about how we can find it. So, how the course helps you. Now, let's talk about when do we choose advanced performance management. Well, I am an internet person, so I read quite a lot what people write on Reddit, on LinkedIn, and quite often I hear, oh, I'm not going to pursue advanced performance management because I hated PM. Well, here is the deal. Advanced performance management and performance management, the exam that is feared by the majority of people, the exam that gets so many retakes, have nothing in common. Why? Because what are the problems of PM? Let's see. First, there is the use of mathematics. And of course, if you are not so good with maths, and that's okay because people are different, and you need to solve simultaneous equations, well, it could be challenging. No maths in IPM. So with IPM, quite often your calculator is going to just lie there on your desk. You may be required to calculate economic value added, but this is basically just adjusted operating profit. So kind of like the logics is more or less like earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. So it's not really about calculating, it's more about making adjustments. And another thing that may be required from you is to take the budget and update it, well, because the price has increased, the cost decreased, and so on. But that happens once a year, and it will be, well, maybe 15 marks top. So, but most likely the calculation alone won't cost more than 10 marks. So there is APM is like less mathematical, one of the least mathematical exam in ACCA. Another problem of performance management was that you needed to remember lots of workflows. So lots of workflows to remember. And the nasty stuff about performance management was that whatever you started for CVP, so when you calculated break even, is absolutely useless for relevant costing. Relevant costing has nothing to do with life cycle. Life cycle costing has nothing to do with the learning curve, and that has nothing to do with variances, and that has nothing to do with the optimal price. So basically, you needed to stock in your short-term memory lots of different approaches. And of course, it can be hard for some people, especially we do know that some people have problems with memory after COVID, and well, there could be some other issues. Well, that is not the case for APM. With APM, theory is easy to remember. How come? Well, let's say pastel model. Well, I mean, you should be not very smart in order not to remember that pastel is just political, economic, social, technological, environmental, legal. SWOT. How hard is it to remember that is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? Not hard at all. So No, it's not that complicated. There are not many workflows to remember. And well, I know what I'm talking because I've been teaching both exams, and I know that as a tutor, I need to revise, well, double check that I understand, that I remember correctly certain topics. Like say when I'm calculating optimal price for performance management exam. With IPM, no, no. Another problem with PM is that it's a lot to learn. Well, I mean, really, there are so many chapters, and each and every chapter is very different, and you have to learn it. You can't just try and hope that somehow you are going to recreate the knowledge of, let's say, learning curve. I doubt that a person could just invent it in their exam. You need to calculate, you need to practice how to calculate, let's say, the product ranking using a limiting factor analysis. You can't just recreate this very knowledge from scratch in your exam. Well, with APM, it's little to learn. I will tell you a wonderful story. So I was once contacted, personally by a person, and their HR messed up. So the HR registered them for AFM, Advanced Financial Management. And when that person just logged in to print out the docket, and it was a week before the exam, well, he realized that actually the HR registered them for APM, Advanced Performance Management. Well, it was daunting, it was heartbreaking, especially taking into account that the company actually sent that very person to take the training on AFM, so the company spent some money, and well, the person, he was getting prepared and so on, and by that time he couldn't reschedule or do anything. So they came to me a week before the exam, and we started 3 times a day. So we had like 3 classes in the morning, afternoon, and evening. Usually I needed less time, but because they didn't have too much time, we needed to make our studies the most effective and efficient. And he passed. So, like, basically, he was able to cover everything within a week. And you can imagine the level of stress. And I can't do the same trick for, let's say, advanced financial management. Well, with advanced financial management, you do need more time. I can't do the same trick with, let's say, AAA exam. There is a lot more to learn. IPM is the shortest exam. So if I teach it individually, I usually take, 12 classes, something like that, for a person to pass APM. See? Now, as such, if you hated performance management, IPM is going to be very different. And even more, well, performance management was a lot about numbers. And well, if you work in finance and accounting and so on, well, why would you need this absorption costing? Why would you need, let's say, throughput accounting? Highly unlikely, right? But IPM is about management. And ultimately, the higher you go up the career ladder, the more it is about the management and the less it is about the work that you do. So if you are an auditor, the higher you go, the more it is about managing. If you are, let's say, in finance, management, and so on. So this is the most universal exam. And well, I've had so many clients that would come to me while being top managers, and they would say, oh, I can actually apply it in my daily life. Oh, I can monetize the knowledge straight away. So this is one of the best exams career-wise. So IPM is the best exam career-wise. So don't worry if you hated it, PM. APM has nothing to do with it. The next problem that I hear is that, oh, APM is just SBL. Yes, and then we check the pass rates and we see 30%. Well, SBL pass rate is much higher, right? Despite the fact that it has complications such as pre-seen. Before, this was the most voluminous exam in terms of time, because before, not now, before, it was 4 hours instead of 3, and so on. So why? is IBM so very low in ranking? Well, because there are other people, not very ethical people, who say that IBM is very much like SBL. It is not. Why? Because SBL is about the change. It's about changing the strategy. It's about the change in the management, the style, and so on. APM is about managing. So we don't change the organization. We have already worked out our strategy, and we're just trying to find the balance of carrots and sticks for the company to achieve the goals. So the note, the key of the exam is going to be very different. And because people don't understand it, they start writing the answer in a way that will never bring marks. So for example, most likely, if you are going to use the word should, you are going to answer the wrong exam. Not even the wrong question, the wrong exam. Because most likely, your exam is going to ask you to criticize, not advise something, criticize. Another problem that, for example, when you say that revenue increased, cost decreased, then most likely you are going to answer the wrong question. And finally, the problem that we have with this very exam is that quite often people, unfortunately, formulate the wonderful ideas in a way that doesn't bring marks. So how about I give you an example? So how about we look at this very sentence? Smoking should be banned from public places as smoking kills. How many marks do you think this sentence is going to bring? 0.5 mark, 1 mark, or 2 marks? Just type it into the chat. Okay, 0.5. Any other ideas? 0.5, 0, 1, 2 marks. Okay. So the first problem that you have, and that relates not only to APM, to any strategic paper, well, first of all, there is no such thing as 0.5 marks. I have no idea where you took it from. There is no such thing as 0.5 marks. 0.5 marks sometimes is given in AA audit and assurance exam, so the fundamental level, when the question is list the audit procedures, and there you just need to kind of like list the names. 0.5 marks can't be received for SBR, can't be received for IPM, for SBL, and so on. Just forget about such a thing and just pay attention to how many people in the group are confused about it. And it's not the problem with you, right? It's the problem of this misinformation about the exams. And thank you for participating. Thank you for answering. That kind of like shows us that the problem is quite big, right? But also let's have a look at whether it's going to bring 1 mark or not. On one hand, we have justification, so as smoking kills. And that is great because only a justified idea is going to bring you marks. But on the other hand, when we're going to look at the first sentence, when we have the preposition, we see the adjective here, public places. So this means that your justification should relate to public places as well. So if you were to just say smoking kills, it would not count. If you would just add 2 words, second-hand smoking kills, then it is a mark. So no, everybody was wrong. It was 0 mark unless there is an extra word, second-hand smoking kills. So as you can see, the problem is that people quite often answer the question in a way that doesn't score any marks. So don't earn marks. Now, what are we going to do about it? How will the course help you? So with the course, we're going to have several important features. We are going to have video lectures. All the video lectures are going to be recorded by me. The presentations were not by me, the recording was made by me, and there I explain you the logics. Because when you get to the exam, you may forget the little things. You can forget the theory, but if you understand the overall logics, then it's going to be easier for you to answer the question that is set and not the question that you are imagining. On top of that, there is going to be lots of videos with past papers. Oh, I have lots of them. If you want more, if for some reason you are that motivated person who has watched all the videos and you need more, just tell me, and I am going to make available more lectures. And the past papers that I attempt, they are not just about writing you the model answer. I hate model answers because the model answer that is given to you, it's going to have several problems. So let's list them. The problems with the model answer. The problem number one is that it's too long. Now, with the strategic papers, you need to understand an important concept. You lose marks for wrong ideas and for writing too much. Hear me out. When you were at fundamental level, most likely your tutors would say, write as much bullshit as you can. Because the more you write, the higher is the chance that you get the ideas that are right, and as such, you're going to score marks. At fundamental level, so your PM, FM, AA, this is a relevant advice. Why? Because in there you have quite a lot of time, because you have some of the exam that is tested using multiple choice questions that doesn't take much time. So to show you the problem of the issue, when I was a student myself, I would have 1 extra hour left in my fundamental level. So I always was like with this 1 extra hour, and I was supposed to sit there and review my work. And well, my times, the exams were handwritten, so I would just correct the letters or write the words in a more understandable way, and so on. And I had 1 extra hour. With all these strategic papers, I had just the right amount of time to finish it, and it was like barely finishing them. And I am a little bit special. So I, for example, took and passed 3 professional papers at once. So my last session, I was a little bit tired of ACCA, despite the fact that it didn't take me long to pass, but still I decided to take AFM, APM, and ASBR in a single session, and I passed. So I am above average, right? So if you are an average in terms of the exams, then I was much above you, and it took me exactly the amount of time of the exam. If you are going to ask anyone else how they managed it time-wise, well, I guarantee that people are going to tell you that they didn't finish the exam. So every extra word, every silly sentence that is not needed costs you 1 mark, because it doesn't allow you to write the answer to the final question. And as such, if we are going to focus on model answers and get used to that volume, you will just not pass because you won't have enough time. Another problem is that it's hard to say what exactly scores marks. So for example, when I am going to attempt the past papers, I'm going to write it basically each and every mark from the next paragraph, so that to visualize for you how much I was supposed to write, where does the idea start and finishes, and so on. With the past papers, quite often it's blah, 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 and then for some reason it's 8 marks. Also, the problem is that you don't understand how to get there from the scenario. And that is the hardest part, because if you can't understand how come that the model answer is actually the answer that is supposed to happen from this very scenario, well, then what's the point of practice if the answer just feels random to you? That is not what I am going to do. Why? Because with the past papers and with the practice, what I'm going to teach you is to see the answer within the scenario. So almost each and every question that we are going to attempt, I'm going to take the copy paste from the scenario and say, okay, this means that, and that's the answer. So, for example, if we have a company that is family owned, I would tell you, okay, oh, pay attention. The first line says that ABC company is owned by Mr. Smith. So this is privately owned, right? So then we're going to say what it means. So Mr. Smith is an individual, so he relies on dividends to support his living. And then the conclusion, so he will be unwilling to take risky projects that can put dividends at risk. So that is how the answer is formed. I tell you where it comes from the scenario so that you would get used to those very clues. Another problem is that quite often the question is actually contains several questions, and I will teach you to see the parts of the question and to understand it. Now, how about like that? I'm going to write you a few questions, and I would ask you to kind of like tell me in a little bit what we're going to write about. So, discuss the impact of just in time on performance measurement at ABC company. What are we going to write about in just like broad terms? If you can text it, that would be fantastic. Take your time. Hmm? What are we going to talk about in here? Can we say, okay, then just write yes or no, or no, or plus or minus. Can we say that it will lead to the decrease in cost of materials? Hmm? Can we write that on the introduction of just in time will lead to the decrease in storage cost of materials? Yes. Any other ideas? Well, try to engage. I will not remember your names. I will not Google you and write that, oh my God, that very person gave me the wrong answer. No, for what it is worth, I'm very happy that you are commenting in the chat, because that makes the story a little bit more vivid. Okay, the right answer is no. Why? Because when the question is about performance measurement, we're going to talk about the types of measures. So you are going to talk about the fact that non-financial measures will be needed. And you will explain why. You will give an example, for example. Well, non-financial measures, like, let's say, the idle time. Or the idle time, the lead time, sorry, like lead time. Then you're going to say that there will have to be more frequent in order to change the processes faster, and so on. So you're going to talk about the types of measures, not the results. If you were to talk about the results, Then the question would be, discuss the impact on the performance, the impact of just-in-time on the performance of ABC company. In this case, we would, let's say, materials cost decrease, revenue likely to decrease. We, of course, are going to justify waste to decrease, and so on. The question could also sound like, discuss the impact of just-in-time on performance management systems. Do you understand what we would write about in this case? Any ideas? Okay, performance management system means that we're going to talk about the IT, so the software. So we would need to say that it has to integrate all departments, the ability to see the results in real time, the ability to break down broad targets to smaller ones, and so on. So as you can see, the questions look very similar, but they are very different. And the problem is that you hear only what you are prepared to hear. So if you were just to look at the past papers, you would not spot that you have been talking about something different, because you wouldn't even notice that there is some problem with it. And as such, it is my job to highlight, to draw your attention to how the question can be formulated, how to understand each and every part of it. And it's not only about the verb. Well, for what is where the verbs are quite easy. So, I mean, it doesn't take much brain power to study their meaning. It's about other things that we're going to learn. And also pay attention that the question actually is not the subject of the question is not as important as the object of the question. So if we're going to talk about just-in-time, well, in here, we don't get marks. We get marks, and the main focus is either on performance measurement, on performance management system. So it's the key to the question is not just in time, is this very subtopic that is tested. So I am going to teach you to see the questions. I am going to teach you to see the answer to these very questions in the scenario. And that is something that you cannot learn from the past papers. Am I going to share the recording? Of course I'm going to have. It's been recorded. So if the technology does not fail us, then you are going to have the recording. And then I'm going to teach you to formulate the answering in a mock efficient way. So it happens so very often that people have great ideas, but their ideas don't score marks. We've seen that with our smoking sentence. And it's not only about that. It's also about the use of, let's say, these words and an ors that steal your marks and so on. So I am going to teach you. How am I going to teach you? I am going to teach you because there are going to be assignments, progress tests, and mock that I'm going to review. So I will personally review these assignments, progress test, and mock. I am going to give you the feedback, and the feedback is going to be basically almost to each and every line, and your first assignments will be quite demotivated. So let's vote. So our first assignment is for 25 marks. What do you think is the average mark that a person gets in this assignment, in the first assignment? And just put the number into the comments, into the chat. And the assignment just covers a few chapters that have been studied. So it's not about the full syllabus, just like 3 or 4 chapters. So what do you think the average mark is? 15. Oh, you're too positive. No, the average mark is 6. So can you imagine the problem? 6 is the average mark. There are some people that get only 1 or 2. Why? Well, it may be disheartening, but that is why the pass rate is 30%. That's because people misinterpret the question, and despite the fact that I tell them in the videos, sometimes they are not very attentive. Well, because I can't make you listen to, especially when you're watching it at your free time. So I don't have the audience, I don't see your eyes, and I can't see if you're puzzled or not. And yes, it happens with the basic English as well. So you ask someone to go and buy something and they end up buying something else, right? The same it is in here. So 6 is the average mark. And working a lot as a private tutor, so on one-on-one classes, I have had so many clients that would come to me after several retakes, and we would start practicing with them, and it would be their first class, and they would realize that they have failures, like 4 fails, just because they were doing everything wrong. So it is great that you have that many assignments, that many progress tests, and a mock that would allow you to build the skill, so that you would answer in a way that is required by the examiner to bring you marks. And that is what we're going to have. And on top of that, there is going to be chat. There's going to be WhatsApp chat, and I am going to answer your questions should any of the questions arise. And that is basically it. So this is going to be our course. Our course is designed to teach you how to answer the question, even if you don't remember the full syllabus, which, let's be honest, can happen because you are an adult and sometimes you don't have enough time to study or enough time to practice. And the paper itself is amazing, because it is about the management, and management is going to happen to you regardless of what career you are going to pursue. And on top of that, of course, we are going to talk about the professional marks a lot. So you are going to have the video on how to tackle professional marks. I'm going to show you how to tackle professional marks when we're going to practice, because you have 20 out of 100. And frankly speaking, these 20 are the easiest marks that you can get. And I will teach you how to get, so that you wouldn't wonder, so that you would know, okay, I need to say that the report is useful when it's aligned with the mission statement. That is 1 mark. I need to organize the work like that. That is 1 mark in communication, and so on. Now, do you have any questions? Any questions? Okay, well, if there are no questions, then I am going to, well, see you in the chat. How often will you have live sessions? We are going to have 6 live sessions. The last one is going to be 3 hours long and is going to cover the full syllabus. So basically I'm going to start, okay, so what is advanced performance management? It is about how to be a CEO. This is what we're going to do. This is one model, another model, another model. This is what we're going to talk about in this model, in that model, and so on. I would stress that live sessions are in no way substitute for your videos, for the pre-recorded videos. They are needed for you to ask questions, if any, and have this boost to practice more. And of course, they are recorded just in case you're in different time zone. We come all over the world and we appreciate it. Any other ideas? Any other questions? Okay, then if anything, we're available in WhatsApp. And APM is fantastic choice, and I am indeed one of the best tutors for IPM. So I would be happy to see you in the course. And have a lovely evening. And I will see you in the chat. So bye. Can you share my WhatsApp number? I can share my WhatsApp number, but I would remind you that all the communication within the class should happen inside of the common chat, unless there is something that is very private, very confidential. Why? That is because whatever you purchase is the group tariff. So it's just unethical for me to give personal consultations in the chat. So yes, let me retype it. So it's going to be, here is the number, ta-da, up, and here we go. Okay, yes, so use, lovely, great, thank you. I will delete my own then. Yes, here is the vertex or number. Okay, then have a great evening and bye.